Xbox has quickly become home to the Western RPG, and with so many games with role-playing elements, the acquisition of Obsidian, InXile Bethesda and Zenimax, there are more long-lasting and impactful games coming to Xbox than ever before. Big RPG franchises like Elder Scrolls, Fallout, and Fable, just to name a few. And Xbox has literally cornered the market on big, immersive character-building games that players sink dozens of hours into. Xbox has some of these massive RPGs ready to show in the coming months, with some ready to release next year. In the wake of curiosity and anticipation, two big are playing, and fans have never been more excited. This is Colteastwood, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to talk about two big RPGs for Xbox. One of them, someone that we're very close to, got a chance to see the game, so I'm going to be using a lot of his quotes, and I'll try and illustrate with some gameplay and other visuals to show what we think this will look like. If you end up enjoying this video, let me know by liking and subscribing to the channel, hit the bell to be notified of new content, and let's take a look at Avowed and Starfield. Two absolute juggernauts exclusive to Xbox have leaked and revealed details to give fans an idea of what they will be playing in the next year or so. Last week during Xbox's last event, Todd Howard of Bethesda Softworks shared some details on Starfield, the space RPG that is the successor to the Fallout series. Todd Howard confirmed Starfield will have over 100 underwhelming visually and mechanically. Bethesda took the time to explain that they will be using all new realistic 3D photogrammetry with high-end textures, environments, and other effects, all of which requires serious storage space. Back in 2019, Bethesda confirmed that they are using ultra-detailed photogrammetry textures based on captures from real-life locations. This method grounds the otherworldly locations in familiar yet newly explored alien planets. In other words, Starfield will look very realistic while also retaining the wonders of exploring the galaxy. More specifics on the world and hubs that we will be visiting and building our character in Starfield are covered in a previous video which I did and will be linked here at the end of the video. Starfield is set to launch just beyond mid-2022 or closer to holiday 2022. It wouldn't be a surprise if Xbox decides to show something from Starfield at the Video Game Awards in December or something early on before the next E3. One game that is coming that has similar DNA to Starfield in many ways is Obsidian's Avowed, an action fantasy RPG. Many at Obsidian Entertainment worked on the Fallout series and have many attributes related to Bethesda Softworks' own RPGs. Looking at Outer Worlds from 2019, and you can see where the pedigree derives from Fallout and many other Bethesda games. Obsidian Entertainment is working on Avowed, and according to Windows Central Jez Corden, Avowed is ready enough to be possibly showcased at the December 2021 Game Awards. Sources have reached out to Jez Corden and the team, and Avowed is moving through pre-production toward a playable alpha state. Indeed, Obsidian is likely close to having a working early version of the game, with many mechanics and core gameplay pillars already implemented. Jez Corden explains, Avowed seems to be based on a similar albeit enhanced engine from the Outer Worlds, complete with action-oriented first-person combat and deep RPG exploration and narrative systems. We were told Avowed will feature multiple class playstyles and borrow from Skyrim's two-handed combat system. You could wield two daggers and be a stealthy rogue, or dive into archery with a two-handed bow. You could use a combination of swords and magic, or go full two-handed magic, which is required to wield some of the game's more potent spells and abilities, close quote. Avowed will be focused on melee, one-handed, and two-handed weapons, as well as a more in-depth and immersive spellcasting mechanic that goes beyond the Skyrim spells that push them from the player's hands. Avowed uses a spell writing animation system to write runes into devastating attacks from your character's hand, mixing a power feel of BioShock and Skyrim with the impact of Outer Worlds' twist on fantasy. Avowed will feature many elements from Pillars of Eternity that fans will be familiar with. Jez Corden describes them as wizard spells like Jolting Touch, which can fry enemies with forks of lightning. Two-handed spells like Fireball are conjured using complex-looking hand gestures. but decimate enemies in a storm of magma and fire. He also saw status effect spells covering enemies with corrosive poison. Weapon enchantments seem to be a big feature too, with mechanically enchanted swords and frozen arrows. Pillars-style guns may also appear in the game, similar to the muskets and projectiles found in the Pillars of Eternity titles. Familiar creatures such as the lizard-like Zurups will appear, alongside with much larger and deadlier threats. A ton of creatures and spells fully grounded in fantasy RPG. Jez Corden is a big Pillars of Eternity fan, and it appears that he has seen quite a bit of Avowed in action, and these descriptions paint a more detailed picture of how massive the game is. Those concerned with the scope of Outer Worlds, since in my opinion Outer Worlds was a pared-down Fallout-style game with less freedom and exploration. Remember that Outer Worlds from Obsidian was developed under a limited budget with a smaller publisher, much smaller than Xbox Game Studios. Jez explains that the combat is more loadout based than the Elder Scrolls, which gives you mountains of spells in a gigantic list. Warriors will get access to more physical attacks like swordplay, powerful kicks, and shield bashes, while casters will be given a range of spellbook options to customize and tailor their combat style, with attacks bound to specific buttons. If you are a fan of Pillars of Eternity or other deep RPGs from the older generation, you can be excited that Avowed covers the immersion and detailed deep RPG mechanics with modern, real-time, impactful, and satisfying combat. Jez, seeing much of the combat mechanics of the leaked build of Avowed, is convinced that we can expect something in the middle ground between the colorful full fantasy wonder of Outer Worlds in medieval times with a mix of Elder Scrolls on a modern take for Skyrim. The visual art style, though, in pre-alpha state was obviously more colorful, more fantastical and enchanting than the drab wildlife of Skyrim from 10 years ago. Luminescent cave mushrooms, he says, verdant forests awash with gigantic flora, and hulking sunlit temples, complete with skeleton-infested depths and tombs, are plentiful. As Jez Corden tries to explain it, while I try to show you visuals to illustrate what he's saying. It came as a bit of a surprise given the game's original trailer, which seemed like it was trying to strike a much darker tone, save for the neon spell effects, Jez stated. Avowed does seem to take environmental interactivity a bit further than the Outer Worlds, complete with swimming capabilities. We've even heard of destructible environments, using lit torches and fire spells to burn down blocked entryways. Fire spells leave areas coated in flames, which cascaded against walls and floors, Jez describes. And this is welcoming for those that spent a lot of time admiring the art style, color palette, and eye candy ablaze in the Outer Worlds. But will Avowed be a hub world RPG with smaller explorable areas to travel to between the map, or will Avowed be one massive giant world that you can walk from one end to the other, a la Skyrim? Job listings suggest that the world is completely open, and that may be the biggest deviation from the smaller scope of Outer Worlds coming into Avowed. This is likely a fully explorable world with caves and dungeons to venture throughout its map. The most important takeaway is that Avowed will have more creative freedom for combat than Skyrim, and a more colorful, fully featured visual powerhouse, with Obsidian Entertainment proving their worth and capability over the years. Obsidian is also working on Outer Worlds 2 with a bigger studio, bigger scope, and much bigger budget under Xbox Game Studios. Avowed is very close to being revealed to Xbox fans, and the pre-alpha build was further clarified by Jez Corden that although what he saw was missing enough polish to show us right now, he believes that a version is being ready to showcase as soon as December at the Game Awards in 2021, and that the game is likely slated for 2023 for a release. Playground Games is also working on Fable, which we'll likely see in the coming months, and InXile is working on their own first-person RPG, and Starfield is about ready to start showing with gameplay and mechanics. This is just a small piece of the puzzle for a conglomerate of Xbox Game Studios that have a wealth of RPGs, along with being the king of racing, shooters, and multiplayer exclusives. RPGs will be the games that keep us ingrained, immersed, and playing the longest. And Xbox has shown the world that they are the king of RPGs, and with all of this releasing in Game Pass and most any device, they are the kings of gaming, ready to level up right alongside our new characters. This is Colteastwood. Thanks for checking out this video. I'm pretty excited about Avowed and Starfield and all of the other RPGs, but these are a couple of games that we've been hearing about for a while, and we are waiting so patiently to see what they're going to look like, what they're going to feel like. This description from Jez Corden from Windows Central this comes from a guy who's a big fan of fantasy RPGs. He knows what he's talking about. Check out the link. I have the source in the description if you want to read it for yourself. I tried to cover a lot of what he is hearing. There's other news behind Avowed from other insiders that we'll be digging into very soon. This means that Avowed is really close to being shown when we hear this much information. If you enjoyed this video, if you got some level of entertainment from it, let me know by liking and subscribing to the channel. Hit the bell to be notified of new weekly content. And if you want to hear more, you can also follow me on Twitter at Colteastwood. Add me on Xbox Live as well. If you want to hear longer, in-depth conversations, those are on the podcast, on X&C Podcast, which is Monday. Like I said, I'm going to be trying to make a few changes to that show and keep it more exciting and more interesting. But I want to know what you think of Avowed and Starfield. Where are you sitting? Is this the type of game you're looking forward to? Let me know in the comment section. People are going to be talking about what they like the most. Some people are a little bit worried about Bethesda and Obsidian, and I think they're a great fit for Xbox. So while you're in that comment section, please remember, be nice.